There's so many sad, tragic stories of the pro wrestling world. We just saw a larger than life icon of the business, Hulk Hogan. Love him, hate him, feel however you feel about him. He definitely was a polarizing figure, one of the biggest ever. Some would say the biggest ever in the business. And, everyone's reacted to it as of late. Let me know your reaction to his passing in the comments. Hogan definitely had a lot of controversy and things that from behind the scenes come out later on in his life. And, at the end of the day, though, Hogan lived a very long life. But in this video, we're not here to talk about Hogan, but I definitely want to know everyone's feelings. We're here to talk about someone who's still here, but they still have a sad story, not in the sense of life or death, but character-wise, the run that they had, the push, they were over like Rover, as some of the marks would say. We're talking about Mr. Kennedy, Ken Kennedy, later on known as Mr. Anderson. And dude, to say he was over was an understatement. What was his move? The Green Bay plunge, the mic check. Hell, we know now with a lot of stuff being made public about WWE behind the scenes, everything being timed, kayfabe being broken, the way they allowed his entrance to have that little bit of extra on it was a big deal. That showed that they believed so much in Mr. Kennedy to give him that extra time, if you feel me. You know what I'm saying with that, guys? That's like a very big deal. Everything's all about time. If you go beyond your time, you go heavy, that's a problem. And there's very often, there's dudes like, I don't know, he wasn't in WWE, but Glacier, right? They did all that crazy shit with his entrance. That got cut down pretty quickly. Comment, sometimes in WWE, some individuals you saw come out with a crazy entrance with a whole bunch of theatrics, but as time went on, that got cut out the picture. With Mr. Kennedy, they were always letting him do his thing on the mic. He was killing it in the SmackDown brand, often went up against the world champion at that time, I believe was Batista. He was even active in the ECW picture, as, they called it a talent exchange, but ECW and SmackDown traveled together and the productions were kind of one and the same. So he was active in that brand as well. And obviously when he got drafted on over to Raw, he became the Money in the Bank holder and was slated to win the world title. You know what I mean? He's a guy that there's just so many mishaps that it almost seemed like he was snake bitten. I hate even throwing a name out there because people always get on my bumper and talk shit and bust my balls about it. But one of my favorite pro wrestlers of all time, Ahmed Johnson, was like that. Dude was so over. Got the Intercontinental title, had a couple world title shots that were set to come and some big storylines, but he always got hurt or something always went wrong. It was always snake bitten in some way, and we found out behind the scenes too, he was his own worst enemy. But with Mr. Kennedy, he was slated to cash in the Money in the Bank and win, and we found out a misdiagnosis had him relinquish the Money in the Bank to Edge, who cashed it in, and he was supposed to be a champion. But aside from injuries and storylines going off, like how he was supposed to possibly be Mr. Kennedy's son with the Who Killed Mr. McMahon storyline, who would have been the heir to the company, or however it was supposed to go, with the untimely Benoit tragedy happen at the same time, and that, no pun intended, just totally killing that storyline. I personally was kind of unaware of the backstage heat that Kennedy had, and that's not something crazy in the pro wrestling world when dudes are over and seemingly get a push from McMahon on a personal level, like McMahon rocked with Mr. Kennedy like that. But I know about the Randy Orton thing, which we're gonna get to, but I didn't know the other heat that he had, and he with another top star John Cena. And it's a good thing to see Mr. Kennedy now has his own podcast, and I'm all for that. I love to see all these pro wrestling stars get their podcasts, their YouTube channels, and tell their stories and experiences in the business and cash in and get that payday. It's dope. You know what I'm saying? These dudes dedicate their life to this business, their health, their bodies, and it's only right for them to come into the blogosphere and tell their story and make money. Hopefully maybe things can go for Kennedy like they can for Maven. I swear Maven, this dude is like, his trajectory in the blogosphere, the way he did it is like none other, man. Dude truly knows what he's doing. But Kennedy's is called the Mic Check Podcast. Tap in and let me know if you mess with it at all. And it's interesting, Stone Cold Steve Austin, a dude who had his trials and tribulations in the business, and at the end of the day went down in the books as one of the biggest to ever do it. But he was Stunning Steve. He was the ringmaster, this hodgepodge thrown to gimmick where he was the $1 million champion and all this stuff creatively that he didn't like. And at the end of the day, when things weren't going righteous to what he viewed to be just, he walked away. When it was all said and done, he's like, I'm not losing to Brock in the first round of the King of the Ring on TV. No, it's time for me to go my way. And there's being hard to work with, but then there's also knowing to say what's what. And Stone Cold Steve Austin, you know what I'm saying? He busted his ass and got himself over. And I think he's one to listen to what he has to say. And I didn't know this, that he had given Mr. Anderson, Mr. Kennedy, the advice to leave WWE, right? During this interview, Ken Anderson detailed the advice he received from Stone Cold Steve Austin to leave WWE way back in 2007, right? Because you guys remember, I think Cena's best title run ever, the one where he had to relinquish the title, the triceps or whatever it was, pectoral injury that happened on Raw, happened in a match against Mr. Kennedy. And I guess he caught a lot of heat for it. There's a lot of stories coming out now about Cena, who now broke Ric Flair's 16-time world champion record to be 17, have the most world title reigns recognized in pro wrestling. Like, I know Cena was looked at as Mr. McMahon's new Hulk Hogan, if you will, but I didn't know that a lot of people view him in a sense as a politician, the way people talk about Hulk Hogan. Comment, everyone, do you believe that that's true, that Cena really was a politician like that on the level of Hulk? Or do you think that people just viewed him that way? Or what do you think from what you've heard of other pro wrestlers? Was it jealousy or was it facts? Like, I've heard Crime Time, who was out there involved in angles with Cena, say Cena got them in a deep shit. But it says, Kennedy in those 2 years, that was 2007, the best Cena title run ever comes to an end from a hip toss. Cena tears this muscle. And, he says after that, Cena hated him. It was a wrap, right? He said it was just an accident. It wasn't his fault. And at that time, Stone Cold said, yo, leave WWE, go somewhere else, go do your thing. You're still hot. You got that push behind you, and then come back and you'll be even hotter. You know what I mean? It'll be a great return, but that's not what ended up happening. He ended up coming back from his own injury and, injured someone else, Randy Orton. But about Cena, he said he claimed he gave me a hip toss and then tore his pec. And he claimed that I tore his pec somehow. I watched the video over and over and over, and like, it's a hip toss. Sometimes accident happened. At that time, again, that was 2007. Cena was the face. And if John Cena spread the word that Mr. Kennedy was a bad worker who hurt the biggest star in the company, that backstage heat would be impossible to overcome. So he didn't heed the Stone Cold's advice. He stayed And obviously later on, you see this infamous clip when Randy Orton had just come back from injury. You see what it says at the time of this being posted. It was on a 15-year anniversary. Obviously, I don't believe that's what it is now, but it says 15 years ago today, Mr. Kennedy dropped Randy Orton on his recently surgically repaired collarbone on an episode of Monday Night Raw in LA. Orton would go to management following the event and complain that Kennedy was unsafe. A few days later, Kennedy would be released from his WWE contract. That was it. That was all she wrote. You know what I mean? He comes back. This match happens. I remember this too, where they were all wearing like Laker jerseys, and it was a 4-on-4 tag of the biggest stars on the brand at the time, and it was supposed to be a take on the NBA playoffs. And let me know what you think about that move. You see the way Orton popped up, breaking kayfabe, breaking character, kind of saying, yo, fuck you, Ken, look what you did, you know? And Kennedy, I guess, didn't feel that that's what it was, but that was it. After that, he was released shortly after, and then he ended up going to Impact TNA, where he had to be Mr. Anderson. They own the copyright to Mr. Kennedy. I think they still did the mic thing and all that. But to keep it real with you, I didn't watch a lot of them of TNA and Impact. Tap in everyone out there that did and let me know what you thought of it. And let me know if you're surprised that still to this day, I mean, now his career, I believe, is pretty much over. But from that time on, that he never found his way back into the business. Like to say that, or into the WWE, I'm sorry, to say that he was over is an understatement, man. He was over. He was killing it. He was involved in top storylines. McMahon was messing with him. He was at one point going to be McMahon's kayfabe son. They put him in the Behind Enemy Lines Columbia movie, like they believed in this guy. But some backstage smoke with Cena, and then this situation with Orton hurting two of the bigger stars, the way they viewed it. Was it really his fault? What does everyone think about it? Let's discuss it in the comments. But Stone Cold saw the writing on the wall then. He told him, kick rocks, get out of the WWE. You know what I mean? You're politically involved in some bad stuff, and it's gonna kill your push. You know what I mean? You're great. McMahon's got love for you. You're a hot business commodity to him. But that smoke with Cena, it's all bad. But he tried to push through it and work through it, and you know, at the end of the day, it didn't work. Once this thing happened with Orton, it was it. You know what I mean? So comment and let me know if you think things would have went differently. Obviously, Stone Cold, I believe, was trying to give him some good advice. Once again, Stone Cold navigated his way through the business, through all different kinds of gimmicks and companies and promotions, and pushed on and on. A great worker, great on the mic, great with the character. You know, he wasn't even slated to win the King of the Ring when he gave the Austin 3:16 speech. Remember, Triple H was being punished because of the curtain call, but Austin, you know, pushed politically for himself till he got himself over. And Mr. Kennedy was a guy that was on the brink of some great things, but, you know, we'll never know how it would all went because he had some issues with the wrong guy. I'm a bit surprised to hear a lot of these stories about Cena. I wonder if they're being embellished or not, but I want to know what all the fans out there think about all this. And I'd like you to leave it in the comments, as well as everything else we touched on. If you're new, subscribe to WrestleCrest, where we talk about pro wrestling, old, new, and everything else in between over here. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Look forward to hearing from you in the comments. And I'm out of here, guys. Peace.